Welcome back, everybody. My name is Grace, or Gibby, whatever you prefer. And today, number one, I've got a sore throat. So that's why I sound the way I do. And then two, I'm going to be teaching you all how to war. Now, a majority of people know how to war, but you're going to want to keep momentum on and then do endless waves. Momentum is great. It gives you basically 1/2 damage and 1/2 BTH, I think, per momentum. So at 100 momentum, you get plus 50% damage, plus 50% BTH, and then also plus 50% blocking. Now, the way that you war in this war, there are several weapons you can use. First, at 0 momentum, what I did was I had 250 endurance, and I just used the Uragiri weapon in H series, Chieftain's Iron Thorn. Now, the reason this was good is because it gives me extra accuracy, and the endurance makes it so I don't get killed by getting really unlucky, because I have twice as much HP to spare. I did this. Oh, hey, kitty cat. She doesn't have a sore throat. You can tell. But I did this because I wanted the accuracy and I wanted the security of not dying and losing my momentum. Once I got to 100 momentum, I untrained the endurance and retrained charisma so that I would get more benefit out of my Angrelin Orb and Essence of Carnage. So the meta for warring is to use whatever damage boosting mist you like. Swordmaster Emblem is great, and use your best weapon. Now, specifically in this boss, there are 2 monsters with damage caps. There's the Husks with soft damage caps with high clawback, and then there's also, the Wyverns with a hard damage cap. Now, that's pretty annoying, the hard damage cap. And so to get around the soft damage cap and hard damage cap, I brought along Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, for the Godscorch Husks, I just built my best damaging weapon. If you're a basic free-to-play warrior and you just got into warring, you want to get or a free-to-play build, you want to get the classic Savage Troll Club. Don't get the new one, it's ugly. I'm just trolling. But basically, this multiplies your damage by 1.3, whereas Pyromancer Bloodblade or Uragiri only boosted by 20% or 10% respectively. Uragiri is great. Once you have that bonus accuracy from momentum, classic Savage Troll Club will serve you much better. Now, what I do against the Wyverns, because they have a hard damage cap, some of them, not all of them, is I actually use the Haunted Dragonlord's Insight, because it restores a lot of SP every time you use Basket Breath, and the damage doesn't really matter because it has a hard damage cap, so you basically don't have to spam Essence Orb as much, and it's just easier and more chill. But that was basically that's what you do for the mini bosses. You use Tyrannosaurus Rex with SP restoration or max damage. For everything else, what you do is you use one of these weapons, and I'll list them out in order. Multi-Maul, this is the best one. Plus 20% damage and the BTH lean. You can keep it on accurate mode for the beginning, switch to inaccurate mode for boosted damage later on. For that fat, I think 1.3x multiplier, plus 20% damage. It's just nuts. It's really good. Next up, Savage Troll Club. 1.3x damage multiplier, but no plus 20% damage. This is all you need. You don't need to get pay to win items or anything. This setup, completely free to play, will dominate the war. Next is a Bloodblade. You can use this when you're just starting getting momentum, but it will be worse than the Savage Troll Club later on. Next is Uragiri. I used it personally. A Bloodblade would have been fine, but I like having the extra accuracy early in the war, even though the damage is somewhat slower. And then finally, this is like the extreme. You can use Burden of Insight if there are a lot of dodgy monsters in the war, like some Leprechaun wars, especially while you're getting momentum. Later in the game, you might not want to use Burden of Insight because you lose damage, 20% damage. But for the early rounds, when you're building up momentum, it can serve you well. And then for things with a hard damage cap, or soft damage cap if you like, you switch into Tyrannosaurus with a SP regeneration weapon, like Haunted Dragonlords might, so that you can be a little more efficient and not worry. But basically, when you're switching between weapons, Savage Troll Club is all you'll ever need. Multi-Maul is just cream on top if you have it. So no big deal. Let me take a drink of water. Okay. So, as you probably expected, you just attack in overdrive mode, and pretty much everything dies. Like, you'll see, it's quite reliable. The only monsters that have survived 2 turns against me are pretty much the 2 mini bosses with damage caps. A lot of people were like complaining that there are mini bosses in the war. I say, bring on the variety. Make me switch armors every 20 minutes, you know? Like, I think it's good. But anyways, the only part of the war that's allegedly difficult is building up your momentum to 100. And I've just left this client open for like a day or 2. Now that I'm at 100 momentum. But it's really not that difficult in this particular war. Again, I just did it with H-Series brute forcing with Nerns, and I never came close to dying. I still mostly one-shotted stuff without momentum with Rigiri. And then at like 50 momentum, I changed to a Bloodblade, and then at 100 momentum, I changed to Savage Troll Club, Multi-Maul. But it's really not that difficult. They've made warring super streamlined. H-Series is awesome for that. Now, there is another option. So there is the war armor, but I have a little segment on why that's bad later on. Just because basically, with the war armor, you can't spam your skills because you don't have Essence Orb. And with the war armor, first of all, it's low hit count. So against the damage cap bosses, you do pretty terrible. And second of all, the fire skill, it's just not as strong as H-Series with boosters is. Even these free-to-play boosters, it's just not as strong. So you're just doing worse. The style points are there, that's for sure. So if you want to roleplay a little bit, have some style, fashion, go for it. But in terms of practicality, it's just worse because you can't one-shot the mini-bosses or high DPS the mini-bosses, and sometimes you don't even kill the normal monsters. Like, it's just weak. But yeah, so I don't really like the war armor method. But the method I'm okay with is the Paladin spell method. Now, I've got Champion Holy Avenger. It's the melee version. I've got the stat drive set up. Basically, what you do is you just spam Overwhelming Light. Now, Overwhelming Light is nice because it's an overcharged spell, but you can cast it on your first turn because the overcharged cost goes into HP. Look at that, 174 HP, 292 SP. Now, the only issue is, as you can see, it's lower damage than H-Series, which is honestly surprising because it's an overcharged spell, but again, H-Series is just really good. But that being said, if you have the light booster leprechauns, you'll probably one-shot almost everything. And those are free to play, they're just seasonal for Blarney. So this method's pretty okay. If you equip the Light Orb Misc from the Sun and Sands Devourer Saga quest, you'll also be pretty set for damage because that's like a plus 20% boost in some accuracy too for the early game for your moment. One moment while I drink water. But as you can see, this Paladin method's alright. It's just a lot more clicks. It's a lot more clicks than the H-Series methods. You have to go between the menus, but you kind of just, like, I've only been doing it for 4 rounds, and like you kind of just get used to it, and have some muscle memory after a couple minutes, in my opinion. So it's not like it's all that difficult to do. Another thing people do a lot in wars is they use blood mages. So for blood mages, there are 2 like optimal elements you'll want to do. I think light or fire. You can make some other ones work, I'm sure. Like if you only have, I think Necro would be okay. Necro would be alright, but the animations for Necro are also kind of long, so you wouldn't really want to use Necro. But so I think for warring with mages, you'd be limited to fire or light to be optimal. and the blood mages are the best for warring compared to spellcaster lean because the animation's fast, the damage is high. But I have to say, the fact that you have 4 mana casts per wave, so you have to one-shot every monster, or else you have to waste time restoring mana, and the fact that some of the bosses have a damage cap makes mage a really unappealing method to me, because I don't want to face a wyvern with 653 mana left, use my spell, deal 2 hits of 500 against its hard damage cap, and then have to auto attack it down for like 8 turns, or have to restore mana for like 2 turns and then nuke it again. So anyways, I just don't think mage is the move for this war. You can definitely make it work, I just think it'll be notably slower than warrior with either paladin plus Trontosaurus or H series plus Trontosaurus. You could totally use Fireball Z, it would totally work, but the animation's so slow, like I just can't be bothered. Again, like it's not impossible or even hard to make a good warring mage setup, but I think H series is just more efficient and faster and easier because you only have to click one menu, not 2. So here we are back in H series, and H series will work for pretty much every war unless it's like actually just an energy pool and they have sub 50% energy resistance or really high HP. Like the damage numbers are just nuts on this thing. So I really wouldn't worry about I just wouldn't worry about not doing H series. It's just so nice. If you want to change up variety, use the war armor. If you want to be a mage, use mages. If you want to do a ranger or a beastmaster war, that'll generally be a lot slower. I think one thing you could do is use the summer dryad raiment for rangers, since almost everything is weak to fire. And it's 3 hits, so if you use lust, you'll have a pretty good chance of critting on at least one of them most of the time. It's probably notably less reliable than H series, but it's probably still like just as good, or almost just as good. Especially with lust for that crit chance. So I'd say FO rangers use summer dryad raiments, and you'll do okay. You won't do perfect, but you'll do okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the warring. I just wanted to make this video because we had a lot of new players join, because Josh Strafe Hayes, real nice guy it turns out, who knew? And great video maker. I could learn a lot from him, but I'm not going to because that would be a lot of effort. But anyways, since we got a lot of new players, I wanted to make this going through warring, just briefly explaining momentum, and H series being the best because 1, it gives you 2 attacks, 2, it's normal attack so it gets full effect from boosters, and 3, it's locked to energy, and the energy damage gets a 1.85 multiplier. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna put in the war clip I have right now so you can see why I don't like it. But basically you run out of SP too quickly, and against mini bosses you've got no hit count to work with. So here are the options you get when you fight as a war. The main way to do it is to spam the Carnage SP skill. And it's pretty strong. I won't say it's not, but you'll find that when you fight the Gosh Scourge mini bosses, like the Seeker, the Zombie, Ghoul, or whatever, and the Wyvern, you'll find that it usually takes 2 turns or sometimes 3 turns to kill them, and you can't restore your SP with Essence Orb to use the skill again like you can with H series or with Paladin spell nuking. So it's just kind of unfortunate. Also, if those hard cap monsters are still in the war, although thankfully I haven't seen one in a long time, but if they are still in the war, your max output is 4 hits a turn, and that's only until you have SP. So you're averaging like 2.5 hits a turn, whereas with a normal setup you can use Trontosaurus. So I really think that the war armor is quite suboptimal for this warring. Yeah, so that's why I don't like the war armor. Not that it's not usable, it's perfectly fine, just a little bit less efficient and a little bit slower. And I'm trying to get my war kills out of the way, so I'm using H series, and you should too. But that'll be all for today. Usually during wars, I make a ramble video where I talk about whatever thing has been annoying me with the game lately. But since I have a sore throat, you guys are spared from listening to my hour-long rants. Jokes aside, though, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was informative. Have a great day, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye. Peace and love.